Well, what we understand, there are casualties. There are conflicting reports on the number of dead, with some reports indicating 4 were killed, others saying 7. But there have been casualties, and as you mentioned, 2 mosques. 2 mosques were targeted. Bombs were placed outside the mosque, and they went off as worshippers were leaving following Friday prayers. What we understand is that one of the mosques is a stronghold of a Sunni group, supporters really of the Syrian opposition, and the sheikh, the cleric who was leading prayers at the time, really one of the most outspoken supporters of the Syrian opposition. Now we have to be careful. There has been no claim of responsibility yet, but what most observers will say that this attack really will be interpreted as an attack against Sunnis. Why? Because there has been heightened tensions in this country, sectarian tensions really, particularly after the bombing last week in a Shia area, which left more than 20 civilians killed. Dangerous times for Lebanon, the northern city of Tripoli, really a volatile area, a place where we have seen intermittent clashes between Lebanese groups who either support the Syrian government or who support the Syrian opposition.
Well, what we're seeing on our screens now, Zeina, of these explosions is this huge smoke billowing out of this area, and there's certainly chaotic scenes where these explosions have taken place in Tripoli, and it has been intermittent violence, and sometimes for days and weeks on end in Tripoli ever since this conflict in Syria began, hasn't it?
Yes, we've seen clashes. Dozens of people have been killed. It was mainly between 2 neighborhoods. One of the neighborhoods inhabited by the Sunni community, the other neighborhood inhabited by Alawites, the sect that the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad hails from. These 2 neighborhoods just divided by a street which its actual name is Syria Street. Syria really is a divisive issue in this country, but this is no longer a political divide, and that's the fear. You talk to Lebanese today, and what they'll tell you is that we fear that Lebanon could become the next Iraq, because the bombings that we have been seeing is along the lines of it's sectarian bombings. We were at the bomb site in the southern suburbs of Beirut a few days ago, and you talk to people there, and they feel that as Shias, they're being targeted because their political party, Hezbollah, is fighting alongside the Syrian regime. You go to a Sunni area. We were just in the southern city of Sidon, and they say that the state is working with Hezbollah against the Sunnis of this country. So, yes, mosques have been targeted, a very dangerous development in this country, a country which has really had a dark past. It hasn't been immune to violence, and we are seeing more violence really as a result of the Syrian conflict, and the Syrian conflict is no longer being fought on the Syrian battleground.